Welcome. Um, Today, and I'll wait for the slide to pop over to the next one. Great. Welcome. I am Liz Parker. I'm the director here of school counseling, student support, and wellness in Henrico County Public Schools. And everything that we're talking about this evening really directly aligns with our strategic plan, our Destination 2025. And specifically, we have a goal to foster an inclusive, safe, and supportive climate for all stakeholders. And this really falls under that category. More specifically, under our school division's objective that all of our students will have their social and emotional needs met. So everything we talk here and discuss here this evening really falls under, again, directly aligns with our division strategic plan.
Before we begin our session tonight, we'd like to acknowledge that talking about suicide can be challenging and a heavy topic for everyone. So please be sure to take care of yourselves during our time together, as well as after our session concludes. If at any time you begin to feel overwhelmed or upset by the content, please feel free to step away from the session for a bit. We want to share two national resources that are always available, and that's the Suicide Prevention Lifeline and also the Crisis Text Line. Also, local resources are available as well. And as you've kind of heard our introductions, we're really lucky to have a representative from Henrico Mental Health with us tonight, Caitlin Priest. So feel free to stay on after this call if you'd like the opportunity to just debrief or decompress. And then also one final thing before we get started, due to the sensitive subject and just being aware that many of us are at home where maybe other ears are around, please take the time to adjust or get headphones or move to a more private space. So I'll just pause for a moment in case anyone needs to get readjusted. So a brief overview of our time together this evening. So we're going to review the suicide prevention basics. Then we'll move to an overview of the signs of suicide curriculum, which will include reviewing the acronym ACT and what that means, and then what to do if your child expresses thoughts of suicide of their own or those regarding a friend. Then we have our health and PE specialist. He'll provide an overview of what the SOS lessons look like within the classroom, and then hearing how the lesson is delivered and also how it ties to the existing health and wellness curriculum. We'll then discuss coping skills and ways to build our coping skills, and then we'll conclude with a community resource share out. At that time, we'll then end our recording so that we may take questions from our audience. So kind of jumping right in, when we think about why suicide happens, there are multiple contributing factors. Of course, this list is not inclusive of all factors. However, many times it really boils down to someone just trying to stop the intense emotional pain that they're experiencing. With any of these factors, we want you all to know that there's help and support available. Please don't think that you ever have to journey this alone. It can be a very difficult experience to help someone you love and care about while they're also struggling with these feelings and emotions. So some of the factors that can contribute to this emotional pain are untreated depression. The majority of people who die by suicide have a mental health disorder and most commonly depression. These mental health conditions are treatable, but many young people struggle without getting help. When depression goes untreated, a young person may begin to feel so hopeless that they consider suicide. It seems like the only way to not experience these really heavy feelings. One of the signs of depression can be isolating or withdrawing from peers and or family, so be aware if you begin to notice this taking place in your child. Also, drinking or substance use. Many young people who struggle with depression also struggle with alcohol and or substance use. Substance use can be a form of escape from the pain. It's a temporary escape, which we all know can lead to an additional trouble, but again, it can be used as a form of escape. So be sure to talk to your child about the dangers of using alcohol, drugs, or substances in general to cope with these negative emotions. If you're aware of your child using substances, again, please be sure to seek support. Having access to guns. Suicide crises are often short term, but having access to guns makes it easier to carry out the act in an instant. So many people sometimes will keep unlocked guns in their homes, making them easy to get to, and it could be deadly for any young person. So to reduce the suicide risk, please be sure to keep your guns locked and unloaded, and be sure to lock and store ammunition separately. And then thoughts of suicide. So when someone has thoughts of suicide, it does not necessarily mean they want to die. Instead, the person is trying to solve the problem of intention, emotional pain, and that feeling of hopelessness. So they may want to just stop the pain, not necessarily die. So again, being sure to ask for that support from a professional. And there are many areas where we can intervene before someone reaches the point of considering suicide. So when young people get treatment for depression or substance use, they can begin to feel much better, and that sense of hope begins to return. Developing coping skills as well as building connections with peers and adults can buffer our young people during difficult times. We call these things protective factors. So protective factors are things that either help mitigate or reduce risk, while also building and increasing the health and well-being of our youth. So all of you being here tonight, engaging in this difficult topic, allows us then to become all of us to become a protective factor for a young person. Your help and support is so essential. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Mark now to discuss how this topic connects with his work that his team is providing in collaboration.
Thank you, Amy. So we're going to talk a little bit about what the students are learning in school through the SOS programs that are delivered in middle school and high school. That should be beginning at this point during the school year. You should look for communication from your school administration or Department of School Counseling as to when these lessons will take place, along with information about how you can support your student in these lessons.
Thank you, Mark. So just as an overview, our school-based mental health providers, who are our school counselors, our school social workers, and or our school psychologists, are presenting a support approach to suicide. And they'll be sharing how a student can help but not heal a friend. So our jobs are really to act. And to ensure that we are acknowledging a problem and that we are caring enough to tell a trusted adult for help and support. So our team focuses for students to help a friend, not by keeping their secret, but by telling an adult and reaching out for help from an adult when they think that perhaps a friend will not reach out for help themselves.
So just as Liz shared, when your child receives their SOS lesson, they'll watch 3 video clips and then engage in a class discussion to learn the ACT acronym, which is Acknowledge, Care, Tell. At the conclusion of the student lesson, it's then the team's goal to host a debriefing session in order for students to smoothly transition into their next class. We understand that this can be a difficult topic for our students, so we want to ensure that we hold some time at the end of the lesson to support them. In addition, at the conclusion of the lesson, students can request support from an adult. Every student will be given a request to speak to an adult slip, or it could be done online. Parents and caregivers are an important part of this message as trusted adults in their child's life. So you may find that your child will request to talk to you about concerns for themselves or a friend. So next, let's walk through each step of ACT. So some of the warning signs that someone may be thinking about suicide, so this is then the acknowledge piece. People will sometimes give clues that they're thinking about suicide. You may see anger. This could be new or a change in existing anger. So changes in behavior in general can be a warning sign. For example, if you typically have an outgoing, child and they start to withdraw, this could be a clue. Expressing a sense of hopelessness, despair, or overwhelming pain. Sleeping more, sleeping less, disrupted sleep patterns in general could be a warning sign. Engaging in substance use. And again, like we discussed earlier, this could be that way to escape pain. So it should be viewed as a clue for help. And some young people may begin to talk about suicide or use language that could indicate that they're thinking about suicide. Again, this isn't an inclusive list of all of the warning signs. However, these are signs that students are learning to identify through the video clips and discussion in the classroom. And so we felt it was important for our parents and caregivers to know these signs as well. And then moving to the care. Within their lesson, students are learning about the power of listening to their friends and showing that they care. We're encouraging students to practice active listening when they're concerned about a friend. So using phrases such as, I'm here for you, I care about you, I'm worried about you, just show that they care. And then we ask them to listen. The next step, though, is the most crucial. And the next step is tell a trusted adult. So SOS encourages our students to reach out and tell a trusted adult. We're encouraging our students to think about the adults in their school and then also outside of the school that they can turn to in times of stress. We don't want them to think that they have to act alone. We also don't want them to keep the information a secret, which in some cases could literally be a matter of life and death. We want them to know that they need to rely on the support of the trusted adults in their life. And I'm going to pass it back to Mark.
Thanks, Amy. One thing that I failed to share is the foundation of the learning that takes place before SOS does include understanding stress management, understanding the effects of stress, what our stressors are, how to identify anxiety and teen depression in ourselves, and what to look for in our friends. So our health and physical educators typically teach every student in the building in a middle school or high school. So they're able to develop those relationships with students that allow them to have open discussions about real life and how difficult it is to be a teenager in today's society. So having that information then allows them to have the correct vocabulary and the correct understanding going into an SOS lesson and the familiarity of really what to look for in themselves and others, so that when we begin to talk specifically about signs of suicide, that the students understand their role as someone that can identify that within themselves and their friends. So then transitioning to after the SOS program, our children may wish to talk with us about themselves or about their friends. You as a parent or guardian might be a trusted adult to your child's friend as well. If a child is concerned about a friend, parents should attempt any of these items. Listen to the child's concerns and encourage them to seek help. Contact the friend's parent directly and share your child's concerns and your own. Contact the school mental health staff or administrator so they can support the child or family. If they are concerned about a child's immediate safety, we should call 911 and reassure your child that they did the right thing by telling you. This is something that we share with students every day, that we need to raise a flag if we are concerned about ourselves or a friend that we care about, that we want to work together to help save a life. So parents can help their children also build these essential coping skills. We want to encourage all parents to brainstorm the things that are your teen's favorite coping skills and the ones that they find most successful. Pictured here are some things like exercise, writing down what you're grateful for, talking to friends and family, listening to music. Some others may be playing with the family pet, escaping into a great book or a TV series, getting competitive physically through sports or games. But as a parent, it is important to identify what these coping skills are and to pay attention to what your student is using, so that you can also be checking the content of what these items are to make sure that they are healthy and appropriate. So this is a difficult part as a parent, managing the reactions. We certainly do not have to be experts or have all of the answers. It is a difficult conversation for all adults. So we want to take the time to give ourselves permission to be human. It's common to feel uncomfortable with the topic, and it's okay to express that discomfort with a student or child that we're talking to allow yourself to be vulnerable also in that moment, and share with them that this is difficult for you too, but that you're bringing this conversation to this point because we care and we want to support each student. Talk to a supportive person beforehand and debrief after. And most importantly, when we're working with students, especially with their peers, we want to make sure that they never make promises and never keep secrets, that it's okay to tell someone this frightens me and I'm scared and I can't keep this to myself. We need to tell a trusted adult. We need to tell someone further that can help us because I'm not sure what to do next. So in building protective factors, some students thrived during distance learning and others struggled without protective factors and coping mechanisms. They didn't have their favorite sports, activities. They didn't have access to the trusted adults in the school building like they might normally. Parents are encouraged to work with their child to figure out ways to stay connected now that we have returned to in-person learning and beyond. We want to encourage the connection to school, participating in activities, and students should be able to identify today who a trusted adult in the building could be, who are their friends that they would turn to, who are their teachers they would turn to, their school counselors, their administrators, their coaches, if they were worried about themselves or someone else. It is incumbent to let your child know that you are always ready to listen, whether they are concerned about themselves or a friend, that they do not have to worry alone. So in helping us talk to our team, I'd like to pass things over to Caitlin. Caitlin, thanks for joining us.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm Caitlin Priest. I'm a licensed clinical social worker that works with Henrico Mental Health. So to talk to you a little bit today about talking to your teen, we have already covered a lot in this conversation about how important it is to be having open conversations with students about mental health, which can be really difficult. But we want to normalize the conversation because sometimes teens or children will hide or keep to themselves those symptoms of depression or anxiety. We want to remember that depression is not a character flaw. Instead, it's a serious mental health disorder that is treatable. So some of the tips included here to help aid in your conversation: ask open-ended questions. So ask something that can't have a yes or no answer, something that's going to allow your child to, expand on their thoughts and their opinions. Don't try and rush in to solve problems. That can be a really difficult one, something we have to kind of talk ourselves through. Instead, try and ask them what they think might help in that situation, or what they would like help with, or even if they aren't looking for help and they just need someone to hear them out in that moment. And be available and make sure that your child knows it. Just, even if they're not willing to have a conversation with it, then letting them know, I'm here if you want to talk later, or, you can come to me and let me know if you want to pick up this conversation another time. So it's okay to ask about suicide. We sometimes struggle with the actual words to say when it comes to talking about suicide. Please be rest assured that asking someone about suicide will not put the idea in their head. Instead, it lets them know that you can see how much pain they are in and that you want to help. So if you're concerned that your child might be thinking about suicide, you can ask indirect questions, which I think, Amy, if you click through for these. So indirect questions are more like, do you wish you would go to sleep and not wake up? Do you wish you were dead? Or you can ask more direct questions. Have you ever thought about killing yourself? Have you had thoughts about suicide? And if it's too difficult to have this conversation alone, ask someone else for help. Ask another parent, a relative, school counselor, your pediatrician, or even calling some of these national helplines. They can all support you in talking to your child. So some additional tips of getting youth to talk. So it can be helpful to let your teen set the agenda, let them lead of, what topics are going to be discussed, the timing for how they're talking about it. Playing a game, playing board games, video games can make it easier because you're doing something with your hands. Might not make it so that you have to have eye contact during the conversation, which can be difficult. An easy segue can be is if the subject comes up in a movie or a TV show, you can kind of start to ask some questions about it or get their thoughts on a topic. Being out for a walk, taking a walk can be relaxing. That type of atmosphere might be easier for them to open up. Same with taking a drive. That can be a really great way to have some conversations. They're just focused on looking straight ahead, don't have to maintain that eye contact. It can be a great opportunity. It also doesn't have to occur all in one conversation. You can try and have some mini conversations along the way, continue to pick up conversations and check in with them about it. And then, as we said before, you can always ask others to come in and support you. So try to pull other trusted adults, a grandparent, aunt, uncle, your school counselor or somebody at school that is a trusted adult might be able to break the ice a little bit.
So just as a reminder of some action steps that parents and guardians and caregivers can keep in mind, include, again, looking out for those warning signs and seeking help immediately, helping to build those coping skills and positive supports for your child, and talking to your child about suicide and being ready to listen when your child acts. So we want you to know that while obviously parents and guardians and caregivers play an incredibly important role, you are not alone in your fight to prevent youth suicide. Our schools and communities are working together and want to continue to work together to support all of our students. So this graph right here that you see is a visual representation of the top 2 leading causes of death amongst teens in the US. And as you can see, over the past 15 years, our nation has dramatically reduced the number of teens dying in car accidents through safer cars, safer roads, increased driver's education classes, increased drinking and driving laws, reduced speed limits. In a variety of different ways, we've worked together to make changes in order to decrease the number of teens dying in traffic accidents. And in a very similar way, we can work together to stop and prevent youth suicide. So, let's think about all of the different ways that trusted adults, parents, school personnel, staff, teachers, counselors can work together to prevent suicide, to have a similar result in dramatic decreases. At the top of that list is ensuring that parents, guardians, and school-based mental health staff are partnering together and have a good working relationship to help keep all of our kids safe. And if you are concerned about a child, whether it be your own or another child, please do know that your school-based mental team is here and we're here to support you. So please feel free to reach out to your child's school counselor or any staff member really in which you have a relationship or feel comfortable. Additionally, parents and guardians can access signs of suicide information specifically for parents at the URL that you see here, SOS signs of suicide suicidality.org/parent. And this is a great place to go to learn more about youth suicide prevention, to see sample SOS or signs of suicide student videos, and to access an online mental health screening, and so much more. So this is an excellent resource we wanted to direct you to, for all parents, guardians, and caregivers to be able to access these things. And again, that URL is sossignsofsuicide.org/parents. And remember, if your child is showing any concerning signs, it is important to act. So again, to acknowledge that you're seeing signs of suicide in your child, to show your child that you care, and to reach out and tell a professional. And in order to help you locate a professional, we wanted to make things really easy for you and simple so that you can directly access and reach the resources that you need. And so in our Henrico County Public Schools website, we have posted a directory of all of our HCPS school-based mental health providers, and they are listed here by school. And this is on the school-based mental health webpage. So you see the URL here. You can also scan the QR code listed on this site to directly link to this webpage. And again, you can locate this information and a lot more on the HCPS websites and URL that you see here. So please do feel free to reach out to any of your school-based mental health providers. Again, they're listed in the directories by school to make things easy for you to find the resources that you need within the school division.
And just to share some additional community-based resources, so the Community Service Board where I work, Henrico Area Mental Health and Developmental Services, we have 2 offices that serve Henrico County, one in Woodman Road for the West End and one on 9 Mile Road for our East End. You can call the intake line, the 804-727-8515, if you have questions about getting started with therapy services or other mental health needs you might have questions about. If you are in an emergency situation and are not really sure what to do next, it's after school hours, you can call our emergency services line at 804-727-8484. Other good options as far as being in a crisis and having to reach out to someone, Region 4, the mobile crisis line, so Region 4 covers multiple counties within the state, including Henrico. So you can reach out to that 833-968-1800 number, and that will connect you to CREST, which is our child crisis response, and REACH, which is also child focused, but is focused on developmental disabilities and the needs unique to that population. There's also the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, which has now been shortened to 988, or you can take your child to the local emergency department to get support.
So we just wanted to thank you and take some time to show our appreciation for you participating this evening and for viewing the recording thereafter. As a school community, we all play a really important role in youth suicide prevention. And together we can work to support children throughout Henrico County and ensure that every single child has a trusted adult to turn to in times of need. So thank you again for joining us this evening, and I will turn it back over to Ms. Sims.